Hi, I'm Cobbler Bob, and this is my 1971 Cutlass S Resto Mod. As you probably saw from the thumbnail and title, I finally got to put the 482 cubic inch big block olds that has been being built for over a year and a half into the car, but it didn't go so well. Okay, so let's go. It's not hard to tell what this is. I already cracked the box. I've not looked at it yet. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I got a little bit of swag with this. Let's take a look. Oh, I'm so excited. This is not going in yet, but ooh. Oh, let's take it out of there. Doesn't look any different, like right on the surface here, but this is custom built. Not actually for my exact motor, but we sent him a dyno sheet of a very similar engine by the same engine builder. And this is for my car specs. Oh, look at this thing now that it's out. I think this is 10 inch, I believe. Wow, look at that billet case. That's amazing. This should sure do the job. Multiple bolt patterns. That should be exciting. Can't tell you guys how excited I am. It's been, the actual engine project has been in the works for 19 months now. There's a lot of delays and things like that. Biggest delay was one of the machine shops just held the bare block for, I don't remember. I don't remember. It was something like 6, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months. And then we finally gave up and took the block somewhere else. But anyway, and then it's been 20 years, over 20 years. A lot of you guys that know me or are subscribers to my channel know that I had a 1986 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme with a 455, 30 over 455 olds in it, 204R, and 373 gears. That thing was stolen in August of, early August of 2004. And I've been dreaming of this ever since. So couldn't get to sleep last night. Literally felt like a child waiting for Christmas morning the next morning when he knew he was getting his favorite present. So, but let's see how this goes. All right, we are here. Didn't quite make 8 o'clock, but we are at Pro Car Associates trying to get their logo in the frame, but other people are in the way. Anyway, we're at Pro Car, and we're gonna haul everything and get the motor set up. I'll keep you guys in the loop. I think this thing is pretty ready to fire. So, give you kind of a quick rundown. This is a 455 block. I think it's a 68 block. It is 125 thousandths overbore. It's built by M&J Performance, Tennessee. Obviously, you see ATI Super Damper. The stroke, it's a 425 crank. It's been stroked to a 455 stroke, so it's 4 1/4, 4.25 inch bore, 4.25 inch stroke. The block has been block filled with hard block filler. Let's see, what else? It has 4 bolt steel main bearing caps. It has a 7.1 inch K1 steel connecting rods. They are diamond pistons. Kind of like a flat top with valve reliefs in it, and a tiny dish. I think it was a 5cc dish or something like that. These are Speedmaster heads. I bought these before the whole Speedmaster Summit fiasco, but Speedmaster bear heads, CNC ported by Performance Driven Design. You can see there. And I think they flow somewhere in the low 300, 312 at 600 inch lift or something like that on the intake side. Let's see, what else? Harlan Sharp roller rockers. What else is really relevant? I think that's kind of, the cam is a cam motion. Yeah, it's, what is it? 605, 609 lift, 249 duration at 50 intake, 254 exhaust. And then 110-degree lobe separation. It is a hydraulic roller cam. So, painted Bahama blue, it's very pretty. Holley EFI, 4150, Terminator X. This is the same, that is actually my throttle body and the ECU over there that were running on my 212 horsepower. Number 8-headed 350 that we just yanked out. American Racing, 2-inch primary headers with a 3.5-inch collector. The car does have 3-inch exhaust on it. Let's see. I think those are all the major things, right? I think I said the crank is a 425 factory crank. Oh, offset ground to 425. I think I said that. With 2.2-inch Chevrolet big block rod journals. So a lot of oiling improvements. If you want to go
learn more about some of the stuff that Smitty did inside the block, go see the part 1, which I'll link in the video description below. Okay, look at this. I see the CNC machine work there. CNC porting job. Roller lifters or bushas. A Schaefer's oil. Does look like alien oil or something. Wow, that's awesome, man.
It's like the old Kendall stuff.
Yeah. All right, so I think we're legitimately here, just about ready to get started. Not quite sure if I'm scared, nervous, excited, all the above, but here we go. Okay, so here's basically the long and short of it. There was a problem at the dyno. That shop actually got hit by lightning a couple weeks before this. Didn't know, and it actually damaged a couple different things. Bottom line, we could not do any load measurements at the dyno shop. So the engine, the rings got seated. The engine seemed to run very well. And they also did some, a lot of work on programming as far as loading the engine up and then tuning it under load. So I think it's got a basic, decent fuel map and stuff like that in it for the Holly Terminator, but absolutely no power runs. Ugh. All right, here's the engine bay the next day after this stuff dries, and this is what I've been using on the frame. It's obviously not correct. It's truck bed coating, and it has a little bit of a texture on it, just enough of a texture to kind of hide some flaws and stuff like that. I was getting some fish eyes there, even though I cleaned it. I mean, I didn't, I should have wiped it down. I just sprayed it with brake cleaner, but now that it's dry, I don't think you can really tell, and you won't be able to see with the engine on top of it. And I did back there, on top of the back side of this frame purchase. Now I can bolt that brake line back down, and I'm also going to redo this line here, this one. This is a vapor line that connects to the vapor canister. I ran it in front of the engine cradle. I don't like that because it could contact the steering, so I think I'm going to redo it and run it behind. So trying to get this cleaned up and get it ready for the motor to go in. Okay, I'm test fitting brackets here. You G-body guys, listen up here. These are G-body brackets and accessories, I've had on my car because main reason is so I could have the G-body radial style air conditioning compressor. But if you want to put a big block in a car that has a small block and reuse the small block accessories, pay up. Like I said, listen up. It's especially you G-body guys. You would think when you go from a small block to a big block, first of all, what is the difference from a small block olds to a big block olds other than things like main bearing size? This is the deck height. Deck height is the distance from here, the cylinder head mounting point, to the center line of the crank is 1.295 inches more, right? So the deck is taller. So here I'm on the driver's side. If you notice, the power steering pump bolts to, this would be the top, the top driver's side water pump hole. And then it mounts to the side of the block there in front of the motor mounts with the big spacer that you can see there. So everything here mounts to the block and is not affected by the increase in deck height. Now, the alternator top alternator bracket mounts to the head. So this in essence has moved away 1.3 inches. So what happens, and let me make sure that I'm saying this right, this side moves 1.3 inches. This is the small block bracket. And if you can see, this mounting point here should go there. And I measure that distance as about 1.5 inches, right? So what I'm saying is the big block bracket grate the neighbors are mowing. Big block bracket is actually smaller, or I might just cut and weld this one because I don't want to wait to go find a big block bracket. What you want is a bracket off of a like late 70s full-size car. But those are getting harder to find. They used to be dime a dozen in the boneyard. So, and that geometry happens because this part of the bracket has not moved, right? And then the head moved up away, if that makes sense. So you big block because the head moved up and away. This mounting point moved to here. So for the big block, you need the smaller bracket. Here's kind of what I have so far. You see how, obviously where I cut it there. And then when I move this to line it up, it'll be about something like that. And again, here's kind of where it started. I can see I bent that tab down to close up the V. And I'd like to keep that whole vertical. That's getting a little bit anal. Right? Another vertical would be horizontal in this case, but so this needs to go to here. You can see I'm getting closer. I'm going to make that V a little wider. So here's what I've got. I actually turned the spare bracket I have into a template. See, I cut the rib off, so then now this can lay perfectly flat on it without any interference, right? And then basically if I line this up like that, so now what I have is, I know that slot is vertical, so if I have the edge of the bracket right with the edge of the slot, then I've got an 1/8 inch offset, perfect 1/8 inch offset. You get the idea, right? So it's going to be something like that. Now the only thing I got to do, I mean, it's just right about in line, something in that ballpark here. All right, now I got the two connected now. Obviously I need to make it look prettier. All right, here it is. I'm gonna kind of line them up there. Pretty cool. CNC ported heads. Oh, a little bit of. Isn't that pretty awesome? Oh, you see that? That is the head bolt. It's actually ported into the head bolt. Oh my gosh, well, where's the air gonna go? It's sealed on the top, sealed on the bottom. Sealed on the top by the bolt head, it's sealed on the bottom by the deck, so. About as good of a line of sight as you're gonna get with an Oldsmobile without doing crazy changes, you know, to the port locations. There's the roller lifters. This is a really difficult part. These are the oil lines. We had the block, my machinist Smitty tapped the block for dash 10AN O-ring fittings. Those fittings that screw into the block though are dash 10 to dash 12. What that means is the portion that screws into the block is a dash 10AN O-ring, but the port on the outside of the block is a dash 12. And that size lines up the holes with about the same size as with the holes that we enlarged the block to. These are the lines that carry the oil from the main bearing cap, from the side of the block, out to the oil filter and the oil cooler, and then back into the block. The bottom one is out, the top one is in. I then took the headers to the Macon Bacon Ranch. This is the same guy that's done the intake welding for me and pressing out shells for the suspension front and rear. J-bend 304L stainless 2-inch J-bend from Summit Racing. I reconfigured this one tube to gain a little bit more clearance to the oil lines. It was just too close. And I know it doesn't show up well here in the video. This could be another hour-long episode that no one would watch. But point is, it made a little more clearance for the oil line, so I didn't have to completely smash that one tube. This worked. I don't know that I've ever really explained the oil system here and all these oil lines in the cooler. The reason for these lines going to the front of the car is the car has an external oil cooler. Why do you need that, you might say? You don't need an oil cooler. I've had a car before where you drive it on the street with a big block and the oil just gets hot. When the oil gets hot, the oil gets thin. So you see the bottom one there, the bottom radiator looking thing, that's the oil cooler. The top one is the transmission, okay? So the bottom one has the big 12 AN lines going to it. Those AN lines go to this thing, improved racing. This is an remote oil filter mount and thermostat. So what this thing does is the bottom line is you see it says flow, oil in. When the oil is below, I think I chose 185 degrees, the oil goes through the filter. Let me think about this for a second. The oil goes through the filter and is returned, something like that. And then when it's above 185 degrees, it goes to the cooler, back from the cooler, and then into the engine. This block here is just so that I can have it's not wired right now, but that's for a oil temperature gauge. So you see the bottom line goes that way. See it there? And then the top line goes this way. If we get under the car a little bit, this isn't the easiest thing to see, but okay. There, so the bottom line, its bottom is out. That's normally where the oil filter mounting pad would screw onto the stock engine. And that is really difficult because you get that hose bend too tight and it kinks. That literally took me, I don't know, about 10 or 12 hours just to install those two lines to get them right. It was a bear. I'm not even going to go to all the details. Just trust me, it's a lot more difficult than it looks to package that stuff in there, you know? That was really difficult. But the reason for that then is, if you saw in the previous video, I'll link in the description below, my engine builder enlarged, sorry about the birds, they're building nests and crap, but the part of the reason for that is because this engine had some of the oil passages in the block actually enlarged. And dash 12, I know you may think that's overkill. It looks like huge, but it's really not that big. So here's one of the dash 12 AN fittings. And if you look at the hole in it, I can stick my pinky into it and stick my pinky in it up to there. It won't go really any further. You know, so the hole is like, I don't know, it's a little over 1/2 inch diameter. It's like 9/16, a little less than 5/8. So it's not really that huge, you know. So in theory, they say that dash 12 would be 3/4 inch ID, but you know, I think the hose is, but necessarily the fittings neck down a little bit. So that gives me like 9/16 oil passages all the way through. That's the reason for that. The block, if you remember, again, in the description of the engine build, the first engine build video, has been filled with block filler. You know, just the bottom few inches that help stabilize the block. And, you know, because it has 4-bolt mains, you know, drilled into the bottom of the block. You may not like this setup, and I'm okay with that, okay? It's not your motor, okay? So go ahead and, you know, whatever you want to say is fine. And this package has been a proven package by Smitty from M&J Performance, and it has run before in his personal car. So what that means is it's only at the top, only above the water pump hole. So if you were to take the V of the block, rotate it so that the block, you know, the row of cylinders standing straight up, water pump holes down is filled with block filler. So what that means is I know that's going to heat up the oil. And I know from experience before, just having a big block and driving it hours and hours and hours, the oil just gets hotter and hotter and hotter after you drive it 3 hours. Then you try and race it, and your oil pressure starts to go down because you got 330-degree oil temperature. So that's the purpose, is I know that's going to be compounded since I don't have, you know, the full bottom of the block with water jacket. Does that make sense? So now I think this is going to be a really good street package.
Stop! Fuel?
Yep. Oh, yep. Hold on, let me get safety glasses on just in case. Okay.
It runs. And I didn't belch anything. Whew.
was about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes after I shut the motor off. It only ran for about 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, enough just to get up to temperature. It's not oil. Yeah, that's got to be coolant. So I've got a couple fluid leaks. That was power steering fluid from changing the airbox. I just believe it got overfilled because it puked, clearly puked out of the, you know, where you fill it. I think that was overfull. That and that are both transmission fluid. I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from. All right, guys, it is Thursday, June 5th, 2025. Hot Rod Power Tour. We would be leaving for it, well, we are leaving for it Sunday, June 8th, 2025. Once again, second year in a row, my dreams are dashed and it's not going. So as you saw, it belched out tons of smoke. It's also got 2 puddles under the transmission that big of, what do you call this stuff? Transmission fluid. I'm mentally exhausted, I'm beat, and there's just not enough time. I can't do anything else with the car today. I got to work till about 9 tonight, so I'd only have Friday, Saturday to do something. I think what's happening is I think the intake manifold is leaking coolant into the number 8 cylinder. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. The engine leaked twice on the engine dyno, and 2 or 3 times we never got it to seal right. I don't know, the intake manifold that's on it is really not my intake. At the 11th hour putting the intake manifold on, the engine builder was putting my, he milled the torquer intake after it was welded and stuff. The previous owners, I got a used intake, had ovaled out I don't know why, a couple of the holes. And when he was torquing it down, the boss where the bolt was thinned down and it cracked. He says he thinks he can repair it by machining the cracked thin part of the boss off to get to the meatier part of the intake, but he couldn't do it before the dyno session, so he had a ported intake, a ported torquer intake he put on. But like I said, I'm guessing that that's not flat. I had a coolant leak when I started it out of the driver's side rear. It was making a puddle on the ground, dripping on the header. It seems illogical to me that I have I know it smoked out the passenger side, but it seems illogical that I have an intake manifold leak and a cracked head. You know what I mean? Especially the first time the engine had heat in it and it was full of coolant. So it seems more logical to me that coolant was leaking. In other words, the same one problem was causing both symptoms. So I hate having a video like this where there's no solution or no answer. Why the transmission is leaking, I have zero idea. But if I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I think I'm gonna pull the transmission out, send it back to the transmission shop. So whatever, I just like to be direct, open, and honest with you guys. Say what you want, whatever. I know there'll be a lot of people be supportive. Sure, I did some things wrong, but I gave it my best. That's all I can ever do. So anyway, I'm going to try and clear my head here in the next few days and at least enjoy the trip with buddies. Both of those guys have cars, so I'm not sure which car or cars were taken, but anyway, you'll see a video, you'll see a vlog about the trip, the Hot Rod Power Tour 2025. All right, God bless you guys. And remember, at the end of the day, I guess my overriding thought I got to remember is this is a first world problem. There's people in other countries that live on literally $2 a day. And, so I guess I got to try and keep it all in perspective, so. All right, guys, so I was just been thinking about this, taking a closer look. I want you to look at the gap between the intake manifold and the head. It's tight there, right? Let me zoom in 2 times. It's tight there. A little wider there, but look what happens when I get to the back. You can see a gap. I can see. Let me focus in. I'll be damned.
How's that possible? It's a gap. It's insane. Let's look at the passenger side. Hard to tell. To me, it kind of looks very tight in that corner. I'd love to pull this intake manifold off and check it for flatness. I bet you it's warped. Hey guys, I'm really grateful for those of you that do follow me. I really do enjoy seeing you guys, especially some of the guys I know and, my circle of friends, and comment and tell me about what's going on. And I at least try to be direct, open, and honest with you guys. I wish this video would turn out differently. Nothing catastrophic, but it is officially 2 days before we're supposed to leave for the 2025 Hot Rod Power Tour. It is June 6th, 2025. We're supposed to leave June 8th. She's going to be dead in the water. We got the ball to like the, I don't know, about the 2 or 3 yard line. Just couldn't get the ball in the end zone. A few things went wrong, but I don't know. But like I said, nothing I can't recover from. I am upset. I am a little bit, feel like I got punched in the gut. But these are all first world problems at the end of the day. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. When I get back from the Hot Rod Power Tour, and then, it'll be a few weeks, so I've got a couple things going on in my life. I'll have the new intake manifold on it. I'll figure out what's going on with the transmission leak, and I think we can actually drive the sucker and, make this beast do what it's supposed to do. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Drop a comment below. And God bless you guys. Have an amazing day.